Pushrod Fury. Hey, Pushrod Fury here. Today is super cold, but we need to make some progress on the H1D. And you're going to see in this video, don't have the fanciest facility here, but it'll work. And I just want to show you what we're going to start on today, okay? So let me just turn the camera. This has been something of extremely difficult to get done. So if you looked at the photographs and videos, this tail light bracket did not come with the chassis that I bought. I did drive up to Cicero, New York and pick this out of the weeds, and there's a funny photograph of what that looked like. It's pitted. I didn't remove the pits because they're very deep, but it is stripped to bare metal and primed and painted with epoxy chassis paint. It's got an aftermarket taillight because, again, none of this is readily available online. This is new old stock, this piece of trim. And what's extremely difficult are the dampers, these little rubber grommets that go into this. Now, this is just a cosmetic piece. It doesn't attach to the taillight. All it does is fill in the back of the bike. So I'm going to run the camera, and I'll probably edit some stuff out as I go. But today we're going to install these elements and correct the wiring harness so that we can get it all connected. Okay, so there's our kit to install this trim. So I'll take this over to the bike and also point out, right, I don't have exactly the right fasteners. So in this case, I'm going to use some hex head bolts, or not hex head, but cap screws, I guess, and it's all stainless steel, but you're not going to see it, and it's perfectly fine, I think. So the hardware for this bike, if you buy all new old stock, they make this a $50,000 project, and we're not really aiming for a $50,000 motorcycle. So anyway, we'll get started. We'll get this installed, and we'll get the taillight installed next. Okay. Well, here we go. So this piece of plastic goes in here like that. Okay. And it's held in with an enormous amount of components. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So these dampers go in here. I do think it's kind of funny that they go through all this trouble just to have a cosmetic piece to cover up the tail. But it's hard to argue. I think this is one of the sexiest stock motorcycle rear ends that I've ever seen. Oops. You know, there's no reason to tail tidy Kawasaki HD1. Like no one ever said, oh, you know what I need to do? I need to improve the look of that. Or I need to cut it up. Well, I guess some people did cut it up, but this one, thankfully, I mean, this is the original sheet metal with no body work. There's no body work on that sheet metal, that tail section. That's the original one. I don't know how it survived, but of course it had to be stripped down and painted. But look at all that. I mean, you have to have 8 pieces of rubber just to get it to this point. And then you need a whole bunch of fasteners. You need 4 fasteners. All right, so I'll do this one at a time. Well, there we have it. Piece of tail cowling trim installed. Next next thing to go in is this tail light. See, this is the, I guess it's not fair to say we restored this piece, because I guess if it was restored I would have been able to remove all of the deep pitting. But these are really hard to get. I mean, at least for me it was hard to get. And anyway, so it's rescued. Let's just say it's rescued. So I need to put a grommet in that hole there. So I need to go find that and put that in, and then then push this set of wires through. Not that grommet, but you definitely want to put the grommet in so you don't eat up the wiring. So I'll be right back. All right, so that grommet actually goes here on this bracket. So I put the grommet in, and then I'll feed the cable through the tail of the bike. And that's going to go through here. So feed that through. And this is, once this is in, I'll be able to line up the wiring harness that's been cut to hell, and then fix that, because I have no idea what's correct with that wiring harness. But you can see that's how the taillight will look when we're done. So we're going to put one bolt in now. Let's hold it in place. Back here. We'll get that lined up. All right. Just going to put the screw in here. Again, I'm using a combination of hardware. As much original as I can, and if I can improve it with some stainless steel for things that you can't see, I'll do that. So that's nice and snug. And that's nice and snug. Slight change of plans. I'm going to cut off all these dopey bad connections here. Just going to cut those out. Just some garbage. Set that aside. And never use those stupid connectors from like AutoZone, right? You got to get the good stuff. So I've got a little kit here. We need 3 female. So we're going to need 3 of those. And we're going to need 3 insulators. That should do it. Okay, so I've got this trimmed back, and I just want to prevent the wiring harness from unraveling anymore. So I'm just going to put this piece of heat shrink tubing on first. And then I'll heat shrink that later. And then when you're putting your connectors on, these are going to be female connectors. Make sure you put your insulators on first, because otherwise you got to cut everything off and do it again. Like I was saying earlier, I could just solder them. Well, I could if I was a good solderer, but I suck at that. But there's no reason to, because the pigtail from the tail light is plenty long to reach these. So there's your, whatever I say step 1, but it's more like step 10 already. But there we go. And now you want to put these connectors on, and this is really important to show you. You want that connector to sit like this. Do you see that? This middle clamp goes on the conductor, and the outer clamp goes on the insulator. You do not want it to be like that, where it's halfway. You don't want it to be like that either. You want it to be just like that. You got to get that into the tool and get it clamped. Okay. There you go. That's what you want, is that right there. Okay. I'm trying to do this, freezing myself to death. So, and I'm not, I don't do this all the time. So, this in, and we're just going to put the insulator just past, just so that it's inside that first. That's what you want, right there. See that? That's it. We'll pull the insulator back, put it on this side. We'll do it again in the middle. And that's what you want it to look like, right there. That's perfect. The other one's a little kludged, but it's still functional. And it's not coming apart. See how it's all bit in perfectly? So I think that works perfect. And then I learned my lesson, and I figured I can just put the harness in like that. And here are our new female connectors. And they're going to connect to these wires. Now, what I don't know is which one goes where. Oh, that's just rubber grease, not blood. So I need to check the take the taillight off. I need to get my multimeter out and see what the function is of all of these. I'm assuming, you know, red would go to red, but, you know, I don't like to assume anything on a wiring harness. So I'm going to check to see what these are, and then I'll come connect them. All right, so on the Kawasaki, black and yellow is ground. So I want to find out which one of these wires is ground, and I'm assuming it's the black one. So I'm just going to check black to say here. So red and black are going to be like the tail light and the brake light. I don't think it matters, but I can check. But black and white on this tail light assembly, this aftermarket tail light assembly, is ground. Okay, so black and white is ground. So that's easy enough to solve. So that's going to go to black and yellow over here. Here's the wiring harness. We want, oops, something like this. So we want black and white to go to black and yellow, which is here. Okay. That just pops in. Or does it? Oh man. Well, that's a stinker. Let's just see what issues we have here. These, I didn't check. These don't fit. These don't fit. So I screwed the pooch on that, everybody. Oh boy. So we're going to figure out that. I'm going to have to fix that. I put those connectors on assuming they're universal. And this is an aftermarket taillight. And so that's my punishment. It doesn't, these bullet connectors aren't correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to cut these off and put the correct male bullets on there to make this work. All right, time to get that done. Okay, well, that's the progress of the day. We have foot pegs. Well, we have one passenger peg. I need another pin for the other side, but I've got both foot pegs on. And putting the foot peg on revealed that indeed the foot peg bracket is a little bent. But given the the history of this bike, I'm not surprised. It's not something I'm going to run out and go replace right away. We made a lot of progress. We've got the rear wiring harness addressed. We've got all the leads identified correctly to where they're going to the aftermarket light. The aftermarket light had the wrong bullet connectors. And today, I'm telling you, was an exercise in aftermarket sucks. Most aftermarket sucks. But for this bike, what are you going to do? So I had to cut off the stupid bullet connectors that came with the light and put on proper ones, and they fit fine. And then this is the money shot, I think. I mean, look at that. I wonder how long it's been since this motorcycle had a tail light on it. Well, there it is. There is the H1D with the tail light, with the demon taillight bracket. If you guys remember what that looked like when I first got it. It's a total nightmare. And now it's starting to look like a real bike. And I'm also going to point out too, I am not blessed with like an amazing space to work with. I'm borrowing a little piece of a warehouse. And so, yeah, it's not perfect, but I carved out a little spot to work in. I'm lucky enough to be allowed to work here. So, no, I don't have the sexiest shop on the planet, but this bike is coming along. I'm not going to do the fuel lines today. I was going to route the fuel lines. That didn't work out because it's too cold and I didn't feel like heating them up. I'm going to wait till the temperature is warmer. It's probably 40 degrees in the shop right now. But I did fix the choke on the center carburetor. It turns out that the new choke, the new brass piece for the choke was, I think it was out of spec. So I took an old one that I had, polished it up, and it went right in. So I think that's what that problem was. And then I'll show you one other heartache that happened today. And that's the badge. I was warned that these things break if you attempt to bend them. The problem is these pins, I mean, this is like, didn't even try. These pins don't align to the holes in the bodywork, the side panels. And there's no way I'm going to drill those side panels out to fit an aftermarket badge. I'd rather just not even have badges on it. I might just put plugs in those holes, because I'm not going to drill my perfect stock side covers to put some crappy, and these weren't cheap, but to put some aftermarket badge on it. I'd rather just plug the holes and leave it without a badge before I start drilling it. But anyway, so that was a bit of a heartache there. All right, everybody. Let me see, if you like what you've seen, please subscribe and hit that like button. Share this video with your friends. Keep making videos about getting the H1D on the road, keeping the Yamaha on the road. You're probably going to see some Armaki stuff, road trip stuff, Sportster stuff, BMW Sport Touring. So it's not just motorcycle restoration, it's maintenance, it's adventuring, it's finding cool things to do. But this winter, it's finishing the H1D, because my God, that sexy motorcycle needs to get back on the road and relive its former glories, and I need to blow my nose. All right, thanks. Have a good day. Bye.